George Washington, a warrior who first fought alongside the British, then against them. A slave owner who ultimately became the first president of the United States. He was born to Augustine and Mary Ball Washington on the 22nd of February, 1732, in Pope's Creek, Westmoreland County, in the British colony of Virginia, where his family owned a plantation. He was the first of 6 children. His father was a justice of the peace and a prominent public figure who had 4 additional children from his first marriage to Jane Butler. In 1735, when George was still a child, his family moved to the Little Hunting Creek plantation, which his half-brother Lawrence later renamed it to Mount Vernon after their father's death. His family homeschooled George until the age of 16, when he accompanied a surveying party to map lands in the western part of the English colony of Virginia. He inherited land, property, and slaves from his family. During Washington's lifetime, at least 577 slaves lived and worked for him at Mount Vernon. The French and Indian War, a conflict between Britain and France for control of North America from 1754 to 1763, involved Native American alliances on both sides. Notably, it was during this war that George Washington gained his early military experience as an officer in the Virginia colonial militia, serving alongside British regular forces. This period not only developed his abilities in frontier warfare and command, but also exposed him to the growing tensions between the colonies and Britain, laying the foundation for his eventual role in the American Revolution. In 1758, Washington witnessed the destructive competition among colonial politicians, which later fostered his support for a strong central government. He left the militia and returned to Mount Vernon at the age of 26. A month later, he married Martha Dandridge Custis, a 27-year-old wealthy widow. The couple had a happy marriage and lived at Mount Vernon. As a respected military hero, Washington was elected to the Virginia provincial legislature. Early in his legislative career, he rarely spoke or even attended sessions, but he became more politically active in the 1760s, emerging as a prominent critic of Britain's taxation imposed on the colonies. In 1775, Washington left Mount Vernon and joined the Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia, which created the Continental Army and elected him as its commander-in-chief. The American Revolutionary War broke out on the 19th of April, 1775, during which the Continental Army, commanded by George Washington, fought against the British Army. Initially, Washington did not allow black people, free or enslaved, to join his army. However, when the British offered freedom to enslaved people who fought for them, Washington changed his stance and allowed black soldiers to enlist. After winning several battles against the British over 8 years of war, Washington was eager to return home to Mount Vernon, where he received a constant stream of visitors paying their respects. To make his estate profitable again, Washington undertook a new landscaping plan and succeeded in cultivating a range of fast-growing trees and native shrubs. He also began breeding mules after being gifted a stud by King Charles III of Spain in 1785. In 1787, Washington returned to politics. He feared disunion and anarchy, but also felt a strong sense of duty. Some prominent figures believed Washington's presence was essential for the legitimacy and success of a convention. Despite his desire for a private life, Washington agreed to attend the meeting in Philadelphia. He returned as a delegate from the state of Virginia to what became known as the Constitutional Convention. Soon after, he was elected president of the convention. In 1789, he was elected as the first U.S. president by state electors and was sworn in on the 30th of April. During his first term, He established various departments of the new federal government, created a stable economy, paid off the country's debt, and kept the U.S. out of the war between France and Britain. Washington initially planned to retire after his first term due to poor health, and Martha encouraged him not to run again. However, many urged him to seek a second term. In the 1792 election, Washington agreed to run for a second term. He continued to build the country, addressed disagreements between different political groups, and, in his farewell address of 1796, urged Americans to stay united, avoid becoming too involved in foreign affairs, and be cautious about political parties. After his second term, in the 17th of March 97, Washington returned to Mount Vernon and dedicated his time to overseeing his extensive agricultural operations, making the estate a profitable enterprise. He also renovated his mansion. Mount Vernon became a popular destination for visitors who wished to see the first president and Revolutionary War hero. George Washington began opposing slavery near the end of his life and provided in his will for the freeing of his slaves. On the 12th of December, 1799, Washington inspected his farms on horseback in harsh weather for 5 hours and then dined with guests without changing into dry clothes. The next day, he had a sore throat but was still well enough to mark trees for cutting. Early the following morning, he awoke with an inflamed throat and difficulty breathing, which developed quickly. Washington asked the doctors to leave the room and said, "Doctor, I die hard, but I am not afraid to go." Washington died between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. on the 14th of December, 1799. The immediate cause of his death has remained a subject of debate. Washington's funeral was held on the 18th of December, 1799, 4 days after his death, and he was buried in the Washington family vault at Mount Vernon. George Washington helped build a nation from hope and hardship. He served not for power, but for the people, and leaving behind not just a nation, but a timeless example of true leadership. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to help us grow. Thanks for watching.